That is whataboutism, though.
Yeah, I don't want to.
No, it's not. It's not. What? First off, whataboutism is the dumbest
expressions I've ever heard.
First off, you sound like a 14-year-old girl when you say it.
You're going to debate whether the United States coup Ukraine. You guys enjoy it. Take care, you guys. This has been fun.
Thanks for coming on, Jimmy.
We're losing track of. I agree with Sitch. Victoria Nuland's the last honest neocon on the planet.
I'm saying that's not what the phone call wasn't about. Once he's out, it's literally once he's in.
Once Yanukovych is in.
So, Ukraine. Okay. So the thing that I was curious about, Dave, is that as a libertarian, I mean, and I assume we'd all agree that the war right now that's happening between Ukraine and Russia is a direct result of starting from the conflict that started in 2014 when Russia invaded and took Crimea. And it seemed unusual to me that as a libertarian...
Wasn't that in 2015?
2014.
They took Crimea in 2014, was it? Or was that 2015?
It was 2014.
Maybe you're right about that. Sorry.
Yeah, it was 2014. It was like March, I believe, or something. But as a libertarian, that you like all these principles of freedom and individual choice, all these things seem to be violated in 2014. And I was curious as how you conceptualized all that.
Well, are you really? Well, first of all, you're starting with Vladimir Putin taking Crimea?
I told you what happened.
As a response to the overthrow of the government in Ukraine and them like ending the lease on their only warm water port. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, look, dude, as a libertarian, governments are all corrupt and criminal, and everything they do is corrupt and criminal. But for our government, for the government, the United States of America.
Well, hold on. Let me just finish. I'm not the United States. Wait, I just,
right. But I'm not saying you're the United States of America.
Wait.
Just one at a time.
Let me just pause.
Yeah. Okay, but let me finish what I'm saying.
No, let me just interrupt for like 1 second, please. I'm not the United States government. I don't want this to be a whataboutism off. But it wasn't. You just interrupted me, and it wasn't that. So I was answering from my perspective. If you wasn't that, I apologize.
I wasn't. I said for the United States government. I didn't say you were the United States government. I'm just saying.
That is whataboutism, though.
Yeah, I don't want to.
No, it's not. It's not. First off, whataboutism is the dumbest
fucking expressions I've ever heard.
First off, you sound like a fucking 14-year-old girl when you say it. So just stop using it.
Well, and second give us your definition of whataboutism. We're happy to use it, Dave.
It's called putting things in context and talking about who the players involved are. Whataboutism was a brilliant term devised by like people so that you could never go like if you just go, oh, well, you killed a bunch of people, and they go, you killed 10 times as much people. You go, whataboutism?
Well, we're trying to stay, Dave.
We're just finish the point.
Dave, we're trying to stay on topic. So if you're going to say something that is on the topic of Ukraine, then it's relevant. If it's America has done things like that, it's a change of topic. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
No, it is not a change of topic.
In your video that I watched, where you're talking about this, you said that the question you agreed that it was a fair point to say we shouldn't allow countries with nuclear weapons to just do whatever they want. And so you said the question was, did we provoke Russia, or did the West provoke Russia, or did Ukraine provoke Russia? So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about how in 2013, the protests that started all this started directly because of Putin incorrectly, and I assume you agree, immorally using economic coercion against Ukraine. And so if I'm hearing you, what you're saying is that you agree that that's all bad, but because of you believe that the United States also had continuing interactions with Ukraine despite Russia's initial immoral action that would then provoke Russia to invade Ukraine. Is that what you're saying?
America has no fucking business doing shit about it at all when the huge criminals that do the same thing on a much larger scale. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think that's
that's what you're saying.
Well, I agree with what Kurt just said there, but I would yes, I think all of that is true. I think that the American federal government is just an objective fact, at least over the last 20 years, is the biggest purveyor of violence in the world. They've started more wars and it led to more people dying and all of this than anybody else by far. They're in no position to go play humanitarian around the world. They don't do it for humanitarian reasons. And if you still believe that they do it for humanitarian reasons, God help you. I don't know like what planet you're living on. And then I would also say that yes, you're starting like the story at a very convenient point for you. And like that actually, the American government also overthrew the government of Ukraine in 2004. Like it's not, this wasn't even the first time we've overthrown their government. And that, yes, we've been like all of the people that I rattled off to you before, former heads of the CIA, several former defense secretaries, all were talking about how we were provoking Russia in the 90s. We basically started a new Cold War with them a couple years after the last Cold War ended. So yes, all of our policies have been provoking Russia. It is not, there's no threat to America's national security. There's nothing to be benefited from us intervening in this part of the world. And all we do everywhere we go is provoke further and further disastrous outcomes, including in Ukraine, where this whole thing probably would have been over by now if we hadn't sent all of these weapons in there.
They had a peace agreement in March, worked out, and then they had NATO, which is the international security state. They send their errand boy Boris Johnson over to Ukraine and told him you better not fucking negotiate. You know who also told him that? It was the Nazis inside Ukraine. You better not fucking negotiate with these people because if you do, we'll kill you. So he's got the NATO, United States. He's got the enormity of the West coming down on him, not allowing him to negotiate. We all know how this is going to end. And now it's just going to be how much destruction do you want to have in Ukraine? And the idea that we're going to sit here in the United States and we're going to try to adjudicate who's right or wrong in Ukraine, it's wrong for us to be there. The only reason we're fucking there, it's because this is what's called a proxy war. So the idea that we want to adjudicate who's right or wrong, that's not why we're there. Again, we're not there because we give a fuck about liberty or freedom or the people of Ukraine. We couldn't give a shit less. They don't care about their own people. They don't give a fuck about Ukraine people. In fact, they're being used to be slaughtered right now in an economic proxy war with the West and Russia. And that's all this is about. And by the way, it's backfiring left and right. And this is so we can sell more liquefied natural gas because Russia already gives 40% of the energy to Europe. And then the United States company, they wanted some of that. And so,
no, Jimmy, come on. Jimmy, we need to have democracy in the Ukraine and Iraq and Afghanistan, just and not Venezuela. In Saudi Arabia and not in Egypt and not right. Like, it's
do you think?
So my point is to sit here and try to adjudicate. Hey, this is why there was a revolution, and this is why the CIA just happened to be on the right side of Ukraine. I don't think so. And so the idea that that's why we're there, that's not why we're there. So to have those conversations, it's kind of a waste of time.
So I want to get back to
so if you can agree on why do you think the United States is pouring $100 billion into Ukraine? Do you really think it's because of right or wrong? Of course it's not. Do you think it's another economic war? Yes, it is. And then everything else you have to say is moot.
You want to respond to that directly, Sid?
Well, I want to talk about, I want at some point get back to the March Boris Johnson stuff. But I mean, I assume everyone would acknowledge that, I mean, to me, this like, why is the country involved is somewhat irrelevant because it's the same thing with Russia. Russia invaded Crimea because they just discovered all this oil.
Why are you even talking about what Russia did? Like,
Kurt, please, at least let him respond. He's in the middle of responding,
okay?
You
talk for like 5 minutes each.
Look, you guys have talked most of the time. Sitch has talked for like 2 minutes. Let him respond.
Crimea because they just discovered huge oil deposits that could very easily rival Russia's.
Who cares?
Oil
Who cares?
Side, so they're obviously
it's a non-point.
Non-point.
It is a point because Russia has economic interests in the area.
So let him do it.
Who gives a fuck? Why do we give a fuck? You know, if you gave a fuck, you would be trying to stop the shit that the United States is doing. You are now repeating State Department talking points because if you can't agree on why we're in this war, then everything else. So
wait.
Do you really think we're there because of right or wrong, or are you there because this is an economic proxy war?
Every country's
that's what it's all about. And if we're there for that, then everything else you're saying is fucking stupid.
In the history of the
I'm going to take off.
Does things for economic reasons. What are you talking about? I'm not over here saying America's the greatest moral country, that everything they do is fantastic. I don't know
So,
why you're
Jimmy,
So you're arguing in favor of this economic war. That's
Jimmy,
You don't
there's
even know
no.
what I'm arguing. I haven't been able to talk for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, nobody is letting him get his position out.
Yes.
Why? What is the
And I only
problem
brought
here?
up-
Are
First
we
of
all
you did.
adults?
Literally,
Is
first
it
of all,
possible to have a
get his position out.
conversation without
First of all,
yelling
we
at
did let
each
him get his
other?
position out. We did let him get his position out.
No,
Just
you
don't say we
didn't.
didn't do
You
that.
did not.
How did I know all that shit about 2013? Of course we did. So
What?
the
So
question
Jimmy,
is, though,
Jimmy,
that
please
America-
steel
you
man
said-
his position
Jimmy,
if you think you
wait.
know his position.
You said that this is all irrelevant because America's only doing this for financial reasons. Which, first of all, I disagree with that point. But I was just addressing that, saying, well, if that's your position, Russia's only doing this for economic reasons
That's
too.
right. That's why we
Okay.
shouldn't be there.
Okay, so that's fine. So
But no one's
that's why I don't
arguing-
want to talk. That's what it means. So we
so
can
the
talk
end-
about
so
that.
So
Can
the
I
end
just
result
ask you
is that the
guys-
people of Ukraine get slaughtered, and
Do you think it's do you
because
think
we're
there's-
using them as cannon fodder. We're actually the provoker
What
in
I'm
this
trying
situation.
to address was the question that Dave asked in his video, which was what he said, what he thought was the important question is that was Russia provoked? Okay. And
Well,
I'm
I
trying to do this
I said that was
chronologically.
Dave,
I know everyone
Dave.
wants to jump around, but it's a very complicated issue. I'm just trying to go through the facts.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's
So
just
we
all
have-
let's all
Not that
calm, just
complicated.
let's all take a
It
breath.
is very
okay.
complicated. So we have the protest that occurs because of Russia's economic coercion, which we all agree bad. Okay.
Let's say Russia's
So
wrong.
then
Let's just
we're
say they're
moving-
wrong.
So is wrong, right? So
Yeah.
we're moving
Well,
on.
let's say that. Now what? Who cares?
Okay. So we're moving on to the next claim, which is that the U.S. couped Ukraine in 2014.
Let's say we didn't. Let's say we didn't. And Russia was all bad. Now what?
Well, then
Give them
then you
$80
would
billion
agree that
fucking
Russia
dollars
wasn't
still?
Wait. Well, then Dave would agree that Russia wasn't provoked, and that what they're doing is completely immorally.
I agree.
no.
I'm gonna go with this. I agree. It wasn't provoked.
Well, no, I
They were all
would. For
bad.
the record,
say
no, I
that.
wouldn't agree with that. But okay. go
Wait.
ahead.
No, I want to know
Dave,
where this goes once I agree with it.
Wait,
Go
Dave.
ahead.
Is it even possible for us to speak one at a time?
Dave, you
I'm
wouldn't-
curious
wait,
if that's
you
like
wouldn't-
within the
Well,
realm
dude,
of possibility.
Wait,
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me just
wait,
respond to that.
wait.
If you're putting
Let me
words in my
ask a
mouth, I'm
question
going to
that was
correct.
directly related to what Kurt just said. Okay.
Uh-oh.
If Dave, Kurt said, assume that we didn't coup Ukraine or anything in 2014. Okay. Wouldn't change anything in your mind, Dave? That wouldn't answer the question that
Jesus
did we provoke
Christ.
Russia?
I mean,
into
I'm not
this
saying
conflict?
that wouldn't change anything in my mind. I'm saying that you just said if there wasn't a coup, if the U.S. hadn't led a coup in 2014, I
Right.
would then say they weren't provoked. And no, I don't agree with that. We've still expanded NATO all the way up to Russia's border. We still put dual-use rocket launchers in Poland. I mean, like, no, there's a million different things. By the way, can I just ask you guys real quick, just a yes or no question, just to see how far gone you guys are? Do you believe that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin were involved in a conspiracy to steal the election to install Donald Trump?
Of course not. Come
Okay,
on,
okay.
you're not
Okay.
talking
No,
to
no, no, no.
morons here, Dave. Jesus Christ.
No, hold on one second, dude. So follow my thought instead of interrupting it. So then that's a provocation
You asked
of Russia.
me a question.
Yes,
I
and you
answered.
just-
I'm not
right, and you
interrupting
gave the-
you.
And you gave the correct. No, but you're assuming.
Oh,
what
I
my
gave the
point is
correct
before that.
answer. Okay, thank you. I passed your test.
No,
Can
you
we
said
get
yes.
back to the-
It's not passing my test. You said yes, of course. That's bullshit. Okay, fine. So then no, I would still say that's a provocation. If you don't believe they were putting bounties on soldiers' heads in Afghanistan, then yes, that's the fact that the CIA and the fucking FBI and, as we all agreed, I guess, the organization that's the biggest purveyor of violence in the world is targeting Russia and telling its own people that these guys are at war with you for the last fucking 5-6 years uninterrupted. That is a huge provocation. How do you think that reads from another country's perspective when you go around the world just slaughtering people indiscriminately and overthrowing governments? And then even just in 2020, they told the whole fucking world, what was it? Jimmy, you probably have these numbers. 4 former CIA directors, 50 intelligence people all said Russia's interfering again with this fake Hunter Biden laptop. So no, even without the coup, we've been provoking Russia at every single turn. If you know that this shit is bullshit, if you know that the whole Russiagate thing was bullshit, how do you not see this all as a provocation of Russia?
The problem with the sort of like branching out when you're talking about history, world events, and conflicts is that it's nothing happens randomly. No country just randomly does something. Every country is reacting to some country doing something. And you get in this problem where you just go back, well, you did this, well, he did this, well, he did this, and it just goes on and on and on and on forever. Like, for example, the day Obama was elected, Russia put nukes in in the middle of Europe in Stalingrad or whatever the name of that like little breakaway country they have next to Germany is, just to see what Obama would do, which is a massive provocation. So we can kind of play the game where we just keep going back and back and back.
Russia's bad. They provoked it.
That's why
They're
I'm
wrong.
trying to kind of
Now
do
what?
this systematically.
Okay, now what? You're right. Russia did it first.
Kurt,
now what?
Kurt, the problem is that you and Dave have different points, so I can't address. I'm trying to address Dave's points. Okay, and
let's stop wasting time on if Russia's bad.
But Kurt, I thought you were.
It's not.
Kurt, I thought you were going to help us moderate.
Because I believe that Dave was saying things that were incorrect in his video and on Joe Rogan, and that's what I'm trying to get at. So it's not a waste of time.
But what's the point of this? Is the point we need to intervene in some way?
I don't want people to say things that aren't true to
Well,
millions of people.
I was right about
But where are we
everything I
going
said,
with
so
it?
What do you got?
Let's get to where we're going.
I'm trying to get there, but you keep interrupting.
I don't want to hear another thing about Russia. Did you're right? Russia's the bad one. Now what?
So going back to Dave, okay. So in 2014, the claim is that U.S. couped the government. Okay,
They didn't. U.S. didn't do it.
What is the evidence?
Dave, say they didn't do it, please. I want to know where it's going.
I won't say that. It's not true.
What is the?
Can we
evidence
just
for
see
that
where the
claim?
fuck this is going? Dave, just tell him Russia's bad.
Kurt, Dave, what is the evidence that the United States couped the Ukraine in 2014?
Well, I mean, there's certainly a lot of evidence of it. You can look at like multiple different pieces. Okay, so obviously there's you have. I mean, Obama actually even said at one point in an interview with that plagiarist Fareed Zakaria that we came to an agreement over the transfer of power in Ukraine. Obviously, you have the Victoria Nuland speech where she's bragging. This is in late 2013 when the protesting was first starting about the money that they've been sending in, the $5 billion, which also referred to earlier money that was sent in, but was certainly also partially in the current like pro-Western protests. There's the Victoria Nuland F the EU tape where she's furious. This is just a few days before the coup was finalized, where she's bragging about or she's bitching about the EU moving so slowly and saying we need to use the United Nations instead. They're talking about who can come into the government and who can't come into the government. You can look at as we played on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I've got that video viewed by several million people now, that you have Gideon Rose, the editor of Foreign Affairs magazine, basically openly talking about how this is the only reason Obama isn't spiking the football right now is because he doesn't want to provoke Vladimir Putin to invade, but we're stealing a country away from them. And then, of course, you can just follow the money and look at where all the money was coming into these organizations. Again, George Friedman, the founder of Stratford, called it the most blatant coup in world history. So I think there's a lot of evidence behind this. And I can, I don't know if you guys want to argue.
I say Sitch is right. I think that it was all Russia.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we have a winner.
I think we established it. Now what happens now? That's what I'm dying to get to.
I know, but when we'll get there. But we're not there yet. So I sent you a picture, Adam, if you want to bring it up. One of the main piece of evidence that I see cited, that you cited, Dave, that Jimmy cited many months ago, about this claim that the U.S. coup Ukraine was, as you said, the Victoria.
You're really going to debate this? You're going to debate whether fucking the United States couped Ukraine? You guys enjoy it. Take care, you guys. This has been fun.
Thanks for coming on, Jimmy.
Take care.
Okay.
And I really appreciate you saying I was funny. I think that I can, no matter who it is, if they find me funny, I have a spot for them in my heart.
But I'm not going to do this. Objectively false. You don't care?
I'm not going to do this. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to go black is white, in is out. And if the point of it is this is an economic proxy.
So you don't even know what I'm going to say about the Nuland phone call.
No, what I'm just saying
cares
is
about Nuland? I know
none of this matter.
What
Kurt is saying is right. It was that it doesn't matter. What's your end point? That we should be helping and spending $100 billion in Ukraine or not? We're there for the same reason we did Libya, for the same reason we did Iraq, for the same reason we did Afghanistan and Yemen, and now we're doing Somalia and Ethiopia for the same reasons. That's the same reason we're there. And any discussion about it is just stupid.
Jimmy,
I appreciate you and I thanks for having me.
I mean, Jimmy, before
true, because you and everyone else.
It's okay.
Everyone else brings this stuff up in your video.
It's okay.
And if it didn't matter, you wouldn't bring it up.
It's okay. It's okay. It's good talking. Honest to God, you guys, you could have it out with Dave. Dave, he's doing a great job, and there's no reason for me to get upset. Okay, so
that's fine. I understand you don't want to, be fact checked or talk about any of the things.
Hey, Sitch, no, Sitch.
Hey,
You're
so
right.
maybe
Everything was wrong.
Hey, you
You're
want to
right,
have?
Sitch.
Should we talk
You're
about
right.
if water is wet? Yes, we could.
Jimmy,
fucking
Jimmy,
Ukraine.
Jimmy.
All right, I'm gonna take care.
Wait, Jimmy. Before you go, thanks for coming on. Come
Thank
back on the show
you.
again sometime. We'll discuss. Take
I
care.
don't think
man.
that's gonna happen.
Have a good Sunday.
Okay,
I'll be
Rush
honest,
is
Kurt.
wrong.
Can I-
Rush is wrong. Now that we've established Rush is wrong, what Sitch is, all the things Dave said are lies. I agree with Sitch. Now we're there. So now that we know that Rush is entirely wrong and we didn't provoke them, they did it. Now what? Now what? Should we be giving them money more? Should we give another $100 billion? That's the part I want to get to, the part that matters.
Kurt, that's a very interesting.
Well, I don't have 7 hours, dude. I know when the show.
Yeah, I got
Look,
I
you
got
guys,
15 minutes left.
you guys
Just
are
heads up.
interrupting, and then you won't,
Wait,
and then you're
okay.
like, that's
Hold on a second.
I'm really
so
not
unfair.
Your point. You're right.
This is so unfair.
Wait. Kurt, if you want to have that conversation, I'd love to have that conversation. Dave, I've literally just trying to get into the things he said just now because I've let you guys talk and talk and talk and talk, and now he's telling me he's going to leave in 15 minutes, Kurt. So I if you want to,
dude, it's an hour and a half of a show. I don't know what to say. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. No one asked me how long I was going to be here for, and I haven't been interrupting that much, so I don't know what.
I know you haven't, but everyone else. Okay.
Okay.
So I want to talk about this Nuland phone call that you and everyone else keeps bringing up as a key point of evidence that the U.S. couped Ukraine in 2014. And this does matter, and everyone knows it matters, because if it didn't matter, people
They wouldn't bring it up.
Constantly.
Okay.
Okay. The problem is that the 2014 phone call between Nuland and Jeffrey Pite, the ambassador to Ukraine, is not at all about them planning who's going to be in the government after Yanukovych is kicked out of office.
I have
That's
a
not what the
transcript
phone
here.
call's about. You can
Actually, look up the transcript.
You can bring up the transcript. Okay, let's bring up the transcript.
But okay, what is it though? I remember you were telling me she was just being cool and helping out. Was that the fucking?
So if you look at the transcript, even Pete, the ambassador. Well, actually, Adam, can you bring up the picture? Because there's all these names. It's very.
I can't bring it
annoying
up
and
for them.
confusing.
I don't necessarily know. Like,
Just
I can
bring
bring
it
it up for the audience, but they're not.
Yeah, bring it.
That's
That's what I mean. Bring it for the audience. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what happened was in 2014, in January, it's like January 25th of 2014, the current president of Ukraine, Yanukovych, he's offering to Yatsenyuk the prime ministership, and he's offering to Klitschko the deputy prime ministership. And Nuland and Pete or Pate are having the conversation about whether they think Yatsenyuk and Klitschko should take the positions that are being offered to them by Yanukovych. It's not a conversation about, once Yanukovych is ousted, we're talking about who's going to be in charge of Ukraine. And in that conversation, Nuland is saying Yatsenyuk should take the position that's being offered to him by the current president. So if anything, that phone call is evidence against the claim that the U.S. couped Ukraine.
But how would it be
2014.
evidence? Even there, how would it be evidence against the claim?
Because Yatsenyuk is trying to placate the protesters. That's why he's offering the prime ministership to Yatsenyuk.
So as
And
the
if the
protesters
US
that Victoria Nuland has bragged about us funding,
That's
and
not,
as the head,
that's not what she said, but
no,
Oh, she
not on the
has
phone
bragged about
call.
it, though.
No, not on the phone call, but in speeches, she has
no, I
bragged
know
about funding.
she said in speeches. She said that we've given Ukraine $5 billion since 1990. She's not saying that she's giving this.
No, but she said it. Yes. No, I know. That's why I
protesters.
even mentioned, as I said it, she was speaking about previous money as well. But no, she said it in the context of the protests that were going on at the time. So if you're talking about she's bragging about supporting the current protests, who are also getting tons of money from these George Soros NGOs, and you have Obama later talking about how they made a deal, and you have the head of the Council on Foreign Relations magazine bragging about how we're stealing this country away. The fact that while he's under pressure and Yanukovych is being driven out of power and he's like ready to almost like negotiate, like, okay, fine, maybe someone else can take it over. The fact that she's talking about who can go in and who can't go in, you think is evidence that there wasn't U.S. involvement in the coup? Like,
yeah, well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. If the president of Ukraine, the guy who's supposed to be couped, Yanukovych, if he's offering this position to someone to placate the protesters, if he's offering this position to Yatsenyuk to placate the protesters, if America wants a coup, they're going to tell Yatsenyuk, don't take that position, right? Because they want things to get out of control. They want the chaos to continue. They wouldn't suggest to Yatsenyuk, hey, you should do the very thing that will calm things down in Ukraine, which is what U.S. did.
We would like a
Directly
calm transition to puppet power to us. So that's why we do that.
That just doesn't make
I don't
any
know how
sense,
you
dude.
wouldn't
I don't
see
know.
that.
Wait, how does it not
I
make
don't
sense?
know.
Explain how it doesn't make sense.
We're fucking burning their country down the one hand, so the guy's like, please, well, I'll do whatever you want, and then go, cool, we can just switch it out with the people. That's what she's talking about, the people we want in there.
Yeah, she's talking about who she doesn't want in and who she does want in. So it's,
So
it's
you,
just
you
there's
push them
no
up against the wall, and then they'll do whatever you want.
not
You don't
an-
have
you're
to
not
cause
saying-
that.
I'm not hearing a
You're not
response.
answering my question.
No, I am answering your question
Yes.
very directly. I'm saying she's talking about who she wants in and who she doesn't want in. This is kind of like the power play. Now that the
We
pressure's
put him
been
in that
put on-
position, so we
Yes.
have to do that. We
Yes,
didn't want
like-
just
Okay,
chaos.
so wait,
we didn't want pure
the
chaos.
claim
We
has-
wanted to take over.
The
You
claim
see the
has
difference?
just changed. Wait, the claim has just
No, the
changed.
claim hasn't changed at all.
The
My
original
claim hasn't
claim was
changed at
that
all.
Victoria Nuland was talking about who was going to be in power once Yanukovych was impeached. Okay, and now it's changed.
No,
to-
I didn't say that. No.
I'm pretty sure you did. Say
Okay,
that.
well, I just
No, I
want
didn't say
for the record-
impeached. I did not say impeached.
You
I
said he
say
was
that-
planning the next government.
I said once he's
Yanukovych is
out.
gone.
Once
We're
he's
losing
out,
track
gone.
of, I agree
Yes.
with Sitch.
Right,
Victoria
right,
Nuland's
once
the
he-
last
yeah,
honest
Once
neocon
he's out.
on the
But I'm
planet.
saying that's not what the phone call wasn't about. Once he's out, it's literally once he's in.
Once Yanukovych is in,
Well, it's while he's Yanukovych is the one offering the position to Yatsenyuk.
that would take him out.
No. In Ukraine, they have a president and a prime minister, and the prime minister is assigned to the position by the president. He would be working under
Oh.
Yanukovych.
Right, okay, but that wasn't settled on anyway. It's not as if they came to that agreement and Yanukovych stayed in. They
Right,
brokered a
and you
deal
know
where they
why?
said
And
because
you
they
know
said
why?
you pull back your police forces and we'll pull back the protesters, and they pulled back their police forces and the protesters seized all the fucking
And
buildings.
the reason it wasn't settled is because even though Nuland had a conversation, supposedly, with Yatsenyuk, where she said, hey, you should take the position that's being offered to you by Yanukovych, Yatsenyuk said, I'm not going to do that. So again, that's further evidence that the U.S. isn't controlling anything.
Well,
They
the
didn't
fuck
even
are we
do the
having a
thing
call
that
about
Nuland
it at
wanted
all?
them to do.
It's not further evidence. I mean, I suppose it could be evidence that every single string isn't perfectly being pulled by the U.S., but it certainly isn't evidence that the U.S. wasn't funding and aiding the protesters in the coup attempt. It's
Okay,
not.
so,
It's just
well,
not.
We'll talk about the funding the protesters, but you see that this phone call isn't actually evidence of the U.S. coupping anything, right?
It certainly is.
I agree with
no.
Sitch. I agree with Sitch. Victoria
Okay.
Nuland,
I know
nothing
you
but
do,
honest.
Kurt, because you don't
You're
care about
trustworthy.
this conversation.
They're not up to anything bad. Why would we not give them the benefit of the doubt after they're great? I don't want to get whataboutism here, but
No,
they have a
I
great
mean-
record so far. So, of course, we should
It's-
assume the best about a Victoria Nuland
We're
call.
trying to figure out what actually went on, though, Kurt. That's the difference.
Why?
Yes,
Why?
but that's
What's
okay.
Why?
Kurt.
I don't care what happened. I want to
I
get to
know,
why
I
we're
know you
involved.
don't care what happened.
Well, let's
Russia's
honestly,
bad.
guys,
You're right. Russia's bad. They did it all. We didn't help.
I
Now
would
what?
say
Now what?
I would say it's evidence of like the U.S. government's like being very involved in the situation at the very least. But why don't we? Because I do have to run in like 10 minutes. Why don't we talk a little bit about like what Kurt's trying to get to of like, so what now? Like, what is your actual justification?
Tell him he's right so we can get to that. Just tell him he's right.
Okay, yeah, sure.
We
Let's
concede
get to
on
that.
all points. Now explain what happens now. That we know Russia's the criminal here. Well, I agree.
Here's the problem. If your guys' position was from the beginning, what Russia's doing is immoral. What Russia,
Evil.
is evil.
It's a war
that
crime.
They should never have fucked with Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign
right.
Country. They can do
Yes.
whatever the fuck they want. Blah 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 blah. And you said all this stuff. And you said, but I still feel like that America should not be funding Ukraine or sending them weapons. If that
Yes.
was your position, Dave, this conversation literally wouldn't happen. I'd have no interest in talking to you about it because I'd say, well, okay, fine, that's his position. But that wasn't.
Okay, so I don't. Okay, so that's not my position, and I don't.
I
agree
know.
with
that's
that.
why
Right,
I'm
right.
trying to talk
But
about
let's-
the facts. But Kurt
just-
wants to keep jumping the conversation
just
to somewhere
because-
that's irrelevant.
Fine, but
No,
well,
the
it's
relevant
not,
part's
it's not
the nuclear war
irrelevant,
that
dude.
might happen. That's what's
it's
relevant. Not the
I mean, it's
nonsense
certainly,
that you're talking
It may
about.
not be exactly what you wanted to talk about, but it's certainly not irrelevant. It's the most
Because-
relevant thing. Is
No,
what Kurt's
because
trying
you
to get
agree.
to.
You
No,
agree.
But okay,
that
so fine.
can't
But if
just
you would
let-
say,
Are you
But-
in a
Agree
nuclear
that you
bunker?
can't
Is
just
that why
let-
you think it's irrelevant?
You agreed, Dave, that you can't just let a nuclear power do whatever the fuck they want. You agree with that. That's why
America
it's irrelevant.
can.
Sure.
Okay.
We're a nuclear power. We can do whatever we want. You guys said it to me.
No, we
There's gonna
can't.
be only one.
well,
One
do you think?
unipower.
I mean, like, what would
Real
you?
Wolfowitz
well,
shit.
look, It is a fair point that Kurt makes. I mean, since you guys aren't really giving any pushback to my claims, and I mean they're objective claims, but since obviously, I mean, talk about Crimea.
Wait, what am I not giving?
Yeah,
hold on,
all of your claims are factually incorrect,
the thing.
Dave. What are you talking about? We did a 7-hour stream giving pushback to your claims.
Dave, you and the CIA guy are wrong.
If you let me finish the sentence, you would have known what claims I was talking
let's
about.
hear it.
So if you guys are complaining about, the interrupting, I'm saying you're not giving any pushback to my claims that America is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, and that the 6 people killed in Ukraine, whoever knows how many by Russia, that's really not up to the, say, like millions of people who have been killed in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Libya and
look,
Yemen
you're doing
and
it
Somalia.
again, Dave.
Hold on.
You keep doing it again. Why are you
Maybe
doing
he thinks
this?
mass murderers should shut the fuck up and not judge other people for less murder.
Let me
Maybe
just
that's
again. See, this is the thing. It's like what's annoying is that you keep complaining about other people interrupting, but you're doing it just as much, and you're not responding to my point. So
I'm doing it just as much. I think if you listen back to this live stream, you'll find that is factually incorrect.
I was doing it a lot myself.
Okay, Kurt was doing a lot. Sure,
Quite a
whatever.
bit.
Anyway, back to like the fucking point, I guess, that I'm trying to make here before it's getting broken up, is that if you'll agree with the idea that, like, okay, America is way more guilty of all this shit, and if you'll take the position that, well, okay, like, why don't we just have one standard here that we judge everyone on? What if we can't let nuclear countries do whatever they want? What should happen to us, the people of America? Like, what the fuck should other people do to us? Should we all be impoverished? Should we be bombed? Should we be killed? I mean, you can't just let someone invade Iraq, Afghanistan, have drone campaigns in Pakistan, have a proxy war in Yemen, have a JSOC war in Somalia. You know what I'm saying? Like, what should happen to us? It should be probably 100,000 times worse than what Russia should be punished with. So it's not just like, do you think this is right or wrong? Well, what's funny about that?
It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous to put us on the same level as an autocracy that invades their neighbors and steals their natural resources and kills their civilians. I mean, it's just.
Have you never
crazy.
read any history at all?
Do you know? Are you telling me? Wait, so are you arguing with me? What do you think the body count is over the 7 wars that we've fought over the last 20 years?
To steal resources.
The body count, I believe, in Ukraine right now is about the same as the body count was in Iraq over the entirety of the Iraq war.
Yeah,
Afghanistan?
in like
Bullshit.
months compared to years.
Bullshit, dude.
Something like, when I looked up, it said like the Iraqi Civilian Project, or I forget what it's called. They said they estimated that like 200,000 Iraqis died throughout the Iraq war. And
okay,
right
that's
now,
on the
like
very.
100,000 Ukrainians have died and 100,000 Russians.
Okay, I'll give you the low estimate in Iraq, which is the 200,000, and I'll give you the high estimate in Afghanistan. Fine.
Why are we even comparing
Ukraine.
this stuff? It's so
because
off
the
topic.
point is, no, it's not, dude.
How
You're
would
saying
it be
what
off
should happen?
topic for a criminal to accuse another criminal of crime and they're a criminal? You think that's off topic?
We're not
Look
the
for
U.S.
it.
government.
What?
We already did this.
I know you're not, but you're also not arming. Yes, but no, I know you're not the U.S. government, but you're also not arming Ukraine. The
Do you
U.S.
support
government
arming
is.
Ukraine?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay,
a
so
conflict
again,
between the U.S. government
the question
and the
of
Russian
whether
government.
the U.S. should be arming Ukraine or not is a different question about whether Russia was provoked into action.
Okay, fine.
And
so
are you
arguing that we should be doing this, that we should be arguing, or are you just conceding that argument? Because you're just saying
I'm not
that's a
even
different
having that
argument.
conversation because I don't think it's worthwhile to have that conversation until we can settle, well, was Russia actually provoked to do
Well,
this?
I say yes.
Okay, so how about like, I mean, do you not see, just granting, okay, what we just said about how big a killing force the U.S. federal government is, and granting even the stuff that you agreed on with us framing Russia for overthrowing our democracy, putting bounties on our troops' heads, all this stuff, the Hunter Biden stuff, all that. Do you think that could maybe be seen as a provocation? Could that antagonize a country if you had this big killing force that was setting up the propaganda that you've actually gone to war? How many powerful people in the media and in Congress have you heard say 2016 was the new Pearl Harbor? You know what we did after Pearl Harbor? Like, do you think that's not a provocation?
Does Russia putting nukes in the middle of Europe when Obama's president, the day he's elected president, a provocation?
Sure. Now answer my question.
So yeah, that's the problem.
No, hold on. I said
We're
sure.
going back.
I said yes. Now answer my question.
Yeah, everything can, of course, everything.
So you just
can
hold
be
on.
interpreted as a
So
provocation.
then you just conceded that Russia
No, I
was
didn't.
provoked.
Okay.
You said yes.
Wait. Okay.
You said yes. You answered. I answered your question. You answered mine.
Let me answer your question, Dave. If you walk out of your house and you go to drive to work and your neighbor says, hey, if you drive your car again, I'm going to burn your house down. And you're like, what the fuck? I don't know what the fuck's wrong with this guy. So you go and you drive to work. Then when you get back home, he's burned your house down. Okay. Did you provoke that guy burning your house down?
Well, if I accused him of murder and overthrowing my
No.
house
Let's
before
not
he
add
did it,
any,
yes.
any
I mean,
extra elements.
all right. I guess, no, in a reasonable sense, no, you didn't.
Who's
Right,
who in
exactly.
this
So-
analogy?
Right. So
I
no.
don't get what the
So
point
when we use the word provoke, there's an implication of like, well, there's a reasonableness to the provocation, right? And that there's a
Right.
reasonable, reaction to the provocation. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, yes, technically, every time someone in America says, Russia bad, that could be a provocation. Every time
But it's
someone in
not-
Russia says America's bad, that's a provocation too. I mean,
Right.
there's
But
so
I'm
many
not
Russian
talking about.
philosophers
But I'm not
that
talking.
like Putin has the government in their schools teach Russian philosophers that say things like, Russia's the glorious empire that should, cleanse the world because, Western liberalism promoted by the Americas is a fucking horrible, degenerate thing.
Well,
It's
okay,
like, is that a
but my
provocation? Yeah.
right. Okay, yeah, we could get into like the kind of these abstracts of what is a provocation is, and I'm just saying like my example is the biggest killing force over the last 20 years by far, saying literally in a like very deliberate, prolonged propaganda campaign that this guy has committed an act of war. They literally, there's still right now tens of millions of Americans, almost all Democrats, who believe that Vladimir Putin stole the election from Hillary Clinton and put Donald Trump into the White House. They are saying that he did something that the worst of the Soviets could never pull off, the Nazis could never pull off, the imperialist Japanese, that he did something worse than any of them. So yes, to your standard, yes, there has to be a reasonable standard of what is a provocation. I'd say that would far surpass any reasonable standard. But again, I could rattle off like 100 of these examples. And again, all of the people who I mentioned at the beginning, this isn't like me and Jimmy Dore and Scott Horton and the antiwar.com boys. This is like all of the wisest people within the security establishment, all warned that yes, expanding NATO all the way up to Russia's border was going to be a giant provocation, and that was going to recreate the Cold War. So yeah, I think it's an overwhelming case that Russia has been provoked. By the way, it's not like I'll come back on and we can do like round 2 of this if you guys want to.
It would be great to do like a calm environment and actually
I would be happy to do.
Go through
Dave,
all the
Dave,
stuff.
you know the original provocation, right? The original provocation was Russia was selling more gas to Europe than we were.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch Adam show. Most of the time we stream Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we stream during the week. Come join us. You guys are going to love it. It'll be great.